Yes, a few technical difficulties accumulating in the lighting. This is why Mark is currently. Once he talks, you'll see why he's like half two-faced. Technical difficulties. Speaking of technical difficulties, Mark is currently.
See, there we go. Already a faux pas, you know. I mean, this is what happens when it's live. You forget to take off the feed, Alyssa. It's
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I was so concerned about seeing your lovely face, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
Even if you are now two-faced.
Yeah.
So a word of explanation. As many of you know, Leonard is not with us today, primarily due to an incident that occurred on preview night, not preview night, but the premiere of Last Jedi. Yes, I got San Diego on my mind. What can I say? Apparently, and you'll have to help me, Mark, with this. Apparently, there was a major weather event that ended up with massive amounts of ice, and you guys are not used to dealing with ice, and Leonard landed on his wrist and broke it in like 7 places or 4 places.
Yeah, that's right. We had a very heavy snowstorm. I'm trying to think when it was now. I think it was last weekend. Like, it just did not stop for 24 hours, something like that. And then the next day, it's basically we had freezing fog, which obviously froze the ice. And that continued for a couple of days. I know when I went out, I had to go to see a film, and when I was coming back, the journey from the train station to my house normally takes me about 20 minutes. It took me 45 minutes. I was walking like some sort of very old, doddery man. It was so dangerous. It really was like an ice rink. So, yes, unfortunately, Leonard has, his wrist, his arm, I don't know what it is, but yes, in several places. So, yes, thoughts with him, obviously.
Obviously, I did see the X-ray, and it is primarily a wrist, right above the wrist. So the I think it's the ulna and the 2 bones that are right in this area of your of everybody's arm, lower arm. Apparently, the latest word is that he's going in for surgery tomorrow. They will be inserting plates and pins and all of that sort of wires. And yes, he's going to need a note from the doctor to get through security and all of those sorts of things. But the big thank God part is that he will be on the road to knitting up his bones on Monday, so that he starts the rehab procedure and the getting better on Monday. He's not stuck in this can't get better mode, which I think has been particularly frustrating. So any thoughts, notes of encouragement that you can send him would be greatly appreciated. I know that last night he did a live event tweet thing, and it was not he sounded a little down, so he would appreciate any notes that we can give him.
I think he sounded more down because he hasn't seen Star Wars yet.
I will admit that I had the thought of turning this into a spoiler discussion about Star Wars, and then I saw his event this morning where he basically threatened to kill anybody who spoiled him. And being the fact that this is his show and he's got to turn it around, I figured maybe that might not be the best thing. But since a lot of us, I'm assuming, have seen the show, I thought that it might be a good idea to have a place where we could talk it through. Maybe we'll do that towards the very, very end of the show with plenty of warnings and all. I will say hello to Andrew Dickinson and Andrew English and Sarita P. and Graham Small. Thank you all so much and Aaron is joining us too, and Leanne, and I'm just going through everybody. Oh, and Caroline. Nice. Oh, Caroline Dugan, not Caroline, Leonard's Caroline, is also joining us today. I think I've got everybody. Oh, and Andy. Nice to see you, Andy. pleasure to have you last week and this week. And Cedric Carmichael is joining us also. The first topic that we had today on our list is the actually, before I get into that, I'm going to just put out a shout out for what's going to happen next week. Everybody who's currently watching is absolutely invited to join us on air. Everybody, that would be a massive turnout. Everybody is welcome to join us on air next week, kind of having an inmates run the asylum. Some topics we'll cover would be, of course, television, because that is me. We'll also be covering last minute gifts, those types of general topics. Nothing that's going to be really, really challenging. It is Christmas Eve after all. It would be at 1 o'clock. Everybody would need to send me an email at alyssa@friendsofcc.com with your email address, preferably YouTube friendly account, so I can go ahead and add you to the Hangout, and we'll go from there and see what comes out. And I am not guaranteeing that it's going to be within an hour, although today. Yep.
So what you're saying, Alyssa, is it's kind of going to be like a Royal Rumble of nerds on a hangout. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Right. And we'll have a good time, and we'll probably be talking over each other, and it will be fun. I don't know how show worthy it will be, but we will have a good time, and that's the important thing.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, that sounds like fun. That really sounds like fun.
Absolutely. So send me an email, find me on the forum, tweet me, whatever, and we'll get everybody on and try and get everybody sorted. I do need people to be on about half an hour beforehand, because there will be technical issues. Even Mark had a little bit of difficulty getting on today, and he's used to getting on. So this week, Fox and Disney. Wow. I've been reading up on this and the implications between streaming and the streaming services and what it's going to mean towards production. The amount of films being produced is outright amazing. If people aren't aware, Disney is buying Fox Studios. They're not buying the news networks, and they're not buying the sports stuff. Just the studios. Wow. It's kind of a sea change to this. Wouldn't you say, Mark? Or
yeah, I think so. It's certainly there was rumors obviously earlier this year, not a long time ago, maybe 6 weeks, and then obviously the deal was dead, and then all of a sudden it was resurrected, and then we wake up and we're like, oh, okay, they've done the deal, right? Okay, yes. I mean, it is a heck of a lot of money. You may have the exact figure there, Alyssa, possibly, but it is a heck of a lot of money for, let's face it, 20th Century Fox do have some great output. Take nothing away from them. Normally when you see something like this, a buyout, it does mean that a studio is maybe on its last legs. We saw it with MGM quite a while ago. But 20th Century Fox seemed to do okay. Don't get me wrong. Their movie output is pretty good. Their TV output is pretty good as well. So I was quite surprised that this happened, and then sort of digging into some of the nitty-gritty of the contract. And I noticed that all of the shareholders for 20th Century Fox who, they will now basically get shares in Disney. So, I mean, you can see why somebody would okay that deal, I guess. Shares in Disney are skyrocketing all the time. I imagine if you've got shares in Disney this weekend, you're probably very happy with the returns of The Last Jedi. So it doesn't surprise me that the deal was ratified by shareholders from 20th Century Fox. What I'm quite surprised about is the fact that it sort of just came out of nowhere. And, well done to Bob Iger, who came out and said, yes, we're going to keep everything as it is. Okay, right, that's fine. And I know you've got to say that, but let's face it, with anything like this, there's going to be redundancies. There absolutely is, you know, and that I know there's people putting stuff online somewhere between 5 and 10,000 redundancies, or it could be more, you know, and some of these will be incredibly talented people as well. So it is a shame to see all of that. My main concern with this is we are losing a studio. We are losing a separate studio now, basically, because 20th Century Fox were doing their own thing. Okay, I know that, you know, Fast and Furious, Fantastic Four was not very good. You know, they've tried other things as well. Yeah, okay, they got lucky with Deadpool because Deadpool is a very good film, but they weren't too sure. But we are losing a studio, and my concern is.
Yeah, let's get into, let's hold off on talking about what it's going to mean to MCU and all of, you know, specific franchises later, the Marvel and all of that. But what was interesting to me, and you're speaking about studios, is that they're not taking the studio, hang on here while I take a look at this. They're not keeping one of the established studios in Culver City.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. They're going to rent it, which is a strange decision.
Right, not to keep that prime creative space in. I mean, I guess I'm assuming maybe Disney already has a large enough space, but Disney has the tendency of making half as many films. I think I read somewhere that they make half as many films as Fox Studios does. So Fox Studios makes a lot more films, but a lot less blockbuster films. There'll be films that are on that get Oscars, you know, that get those types of really good buzz, you know, small, independent, inexpensive films. Whereas Disney will go for The Last Jedi, The Avengers, those kinds of things. And to not have this second studio in Culver City by the old Fox studio means that they may not be doing those smaller films anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's my concern as well, Alyssa. You know, 20th Century Fox financed The Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro's film. And, you know, I don't know if people know this, but del Toro has a very hard time getting finance for his films. He really struggles. And yet del Toro is he's a visionary filmmaker, and everybody should be giving that guy money because he's making imaginative films. And yet I kind of worry that we might not see that in 5 years' time. We might not see any of this imaginative work at all, and it kind of scares me a little bit, I think, especially with, as you said, if they're not going to keep that one in Culver City, does that mean that maybe some of the artists who work on some of the 20th Century Fox animated stuff might be pushed out and it's all going to go in-house to Disney? Okay, Disney know how to do animation, but you need somebody to push Disney. You need somebody to have the alternate animation stuff. And if Disney own it all, what happens? We get the same situation as what happened with WWF at WWE buying WCW. That was it. There was no competition, and the quality dipped. It became bland and uninteresting because there was nobody to force the issue, to say, look, that's the benchmark that we're trying to make against because another film studio has put something out. Well, if we own that film studio, what are we checking against? We're checking against our own films? Okay, well, fine. But yeah, there isn't that.
When I think what you're reaching for is when, and I believe this is Fox, the Fox networks on a small screen started doing Bart Simpson and all of those shows. It pushed everybody else to up animation for the adult audiences. Yep. And it pushed Pixar, regardless of what Buzz Lightyear and all of that sort of thing happened, but it's still up to the technology level to a place where adults could enjoy it. It wasn't all Bambi.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, it's a valid point. It's absolutely a valid point. You know, the Simpsons absolutely pushed adult humor, and then obviously Fox got Family Guy, and they realized that there is a huge market for it. And Disney sat back and thought, okay, we'll see what's happening. And then 10 years, 15 years later, maybe they decided to put something out that was more adult orientated. I can't see them ever taking that chance unless somebody takes it for them. And that's a worry to me, that maybe Disney won't take that chance. Yes, okay, they took a chance. I think they took a chance with Rogue One in terms of that being a spin-off and people not too sure, and it worked out. But it was already in a massive franchise. That's the thing. Are they going to take a chance on, as I've said, The Shape of Water? I don't know if they will.
Right.
That's the worry.
Or Captain America 1.
Yes, exactly. These secondary characters in the Marvel universe, something, you know, it's something like that, like a secondary character that, like Deadpool, I guess. You know, if Disney owned Deadpool, would they have made a Deadpool film? Possibly not, because they were already riding high Captain America, Thor, things like that. Can you imagine them doing a Deadpool and making it an R-rated film? I just can't imagine them doing it. Yeah. This is the worry.
No, it is. Let's see, Super Cat Chick. I am hosting a Festivus party on Saturday, so she'll be hungover and can't join us. I'm sorry. It's Andrew Dickinson is talking about Netflix. Andrew Dickinson also think they may have done it so that Apple can't swallow them up.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Also, I don't know if people know this, but 20th Century Fox still owned 20% of Lucasfilm. So they own 20% of the original trilogy. Were Disney buying 20th Century Fox just for that additional 20% so they could start looking at getting the original trilogy back on DVD? It's a heck of a buy if you're just doing it for that. But let's face it, the amount of money that Star Wars has made for Disney already, it's a drop in the ocean, I think. So it's a long way around to get those rights back for Disney. But if that's what they're going to do, that's what they're going to do.
It's just to go back to the actual numbers, the number that Disney is offering for 20th Century Fox is 52 billion, excuse me, B with a B, billion with a B, for 20th Century Fox. So we're not, yeah, that's a huge buy-in just for those three movies. I can't quite see that. I think it has to do much more with the next topic, in addition to the movie studios and less competition, but also for the network streaming abilities. And that was what I forget the name, the head of Disney was saying. I forget his name.
Bob Iger.
Iger was looking at the streaming possibilities going forward. That was from the New York Times article that I was reading, was saying that they really saw the future in the Netflix and the Hulus, and all of that. And since Disney already owns ABC and NESN, ESPN, and the streaming services, that they were looking at putting together this conglomeration of Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilms, and Pixar brands, and we'll roll that out next year as a network online streaming possibility. So in addition to Netflix, and Amazon will also have, and Hulu will also have the Disney offerings too. Disney, they also will get FX and National Geographic cable networks, and they own stakes. They will own stakes in Sky.
Yes. In fact, what will happen here in the UK is Fox are aiming to buy a certain percentage of Sky. Hang on, let me get this right. Yes, this is correct. Sorry, it's a whole thing. And then when that is concluded, which should be around June 2018, Disney will obviously have bought Fox, so that means Disney will entirely own B Sky B, which is the cable network here. Basically, it's the big cable network. You know, if you have Sky, you can get virtually every channel. Obviously, you have to pay for it, but yes. So they're clearly going after a big international market, and why not? They've got their sights on doing more because, as you said, in the US, they're doing streaming, so they'll have their Disney streaming service. That's great. So you'll have all the Disney films and you'll have all the Marvel stuff. Okay, great. But then when they turn up and they go, right, okay, we've got something for the adult audience. You know, we've got the FX network. We've got Hulu, where there are more edgy stuff. All of a sudden, people who were like, well, I'm not too sure about the Disney streaming. You know, it's all the light stuff. It's all the fluffy stuff and whatever else. Suddenly, somebody who maybe doesn't like some of that stuff but loves, you know, American Horror Story or something like that, is going to sign up for it, because that's probably going to be the first place you'll be able to see it now going forward. Is that they will say, right, it's on our streaming service 7 days before it goes onto television, and you can see it there. So it's a way of Disney bringing in an adult brand, I think. And as you said, Alyssa, you know, it is a brand that is associated with winning Academy Awards and winning Golden Globes and winning Emmys and things like that. So it's a solid purchase for them. What does it mean for talent? I think that's the question, outside of, you know, the MCU and things like that. But even in the MCU, I'm not sure what that's going to happen. But yeah, that is a fair chunk of money. In all honesty, I think it's a little bit low, to be honest with you. But at the same time, if 20th Century Fox are taking that, they'll take it, I guess.
Well, the stock options, you know,
yeah,
that's you know, what you can put a today's value on it, but if the stock goes up tomorrow, it's worth a lot more. So Sky, correct me if I'm wrong. So Sky is like Time Warner Cable, and Comcast is here. They buy individual channels to broadcast into your home.
Yeah. They basically have a large selection of channels. Some of them, there are not many US channels, to be honest with you. They are all predominantly European. Most of them are UK, but they have a lot of American TV shows on there, which obviously they buy in. So there is a channel here called Sky Atlantic, which is essentially HBO with a couple of like Showtime bits thrown in and things like that. So yeah, it's still the Time Warner type thing.
So if they now, are they going to own a major interest? You said they're going to own the major interest in Sky, so that means they can only have, or they will probably only carry stations that they own. So they won't be carrying the CBS, the NBC, the non Disney owned channels.
They could do away with them. Yes, there's no reason why they couldn't. I don't think it would benefit them at all, because while we don't have like an NBC, we do have CBS, and people subscribe to B Sky B for many different reasons. And you can get different packages here as well. I don't know what it's like in the US. So you can get just, you know, the history channels, or just the children's channels, or just the films. I don't think it would be a wise move for them to do that. Certainly the majority of people who have B Sky B is because of the movies and or sports. So, you know, if you want the kids channels, you pay an extra £1. That's about it. But, you know, you get in 15 channels. They could limit it. I don't imagine they would. I think they would be severely limiting their income if they did that. I think you would see a lot of drop-offs and people move into not an inferior service, but a service that is, you know, that they don't have as many channels, basically.
Michael P. sums it up well. Uh-oh. Well, let me just finish this thought, Leonard, and then we'll switch to you. Michael P. sums it up well and says that there's a lot of EU politicians, a lot of people are going to sign into have to sign off on this deal before it becomes law. So we don't still know what it's going to do. And we are joined by Leonard at his box match.
Hello there. Yes, I just wanted to jump in and say hello there, everybody. Hello, Alyssa. Hello, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for holding the fort. I just come in and out of the hand.
Yes.
Anyway,
would you like to say anything about the Fox Disney deal?
Not a great deal. I mean, obviously, it's very difficult to kind of talk about it purely because at the end of the day, it hasn't been finalized. It's something that has been proposed. I do know that I think it's the Republicans wanting to weigh in and make their final content on that. Yeah, it's all in all. I'm in two minds about the whole thing, purely because number one, you've got all these IPs under one umbrella, and it's a fantastic idea. But I'm not a massive fan of monopolies, and I like the idea of kind of companies sort of like trying to compete against each other and actually sort of like have some kind of this landscape which can work amongst, and to have one company controlling that much, I think it's a bit much. I mean, as Caroline and I will tell you, when we walked into D23 Expo at Anaheim this year, to walk through the door and see all those banners of Pixar, Marvel, Disney live action, Disney animation, and Star Wars, and all, and it just really just screamed, "We've got all of your money," and it was just a little bit heavy-handed. And to then have Fox under the same banner, I think it seems a bit much. But who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, I hope that the conversation has been steering towards how it's going to affect Comic-Con next year, and obviously with the fandoms, how it's going to affect all kind of fandoms when it's all under one banner. Who knows?
That's the next topic. That's where we're going with this, is how it's going to affect MCU and the Fox, whether or not we're able to get Fantastic Four interacting with the MCU and Deadpool, what it's going to mean to Deadpool and the like.
That's the upside to the whole thing for me. Yeah. Is having Deadpool involved. So who knows? I mean, Deadpool, I know
is a member of Disney.
Indeed. I mean, people have been talking about the revival of Fantastic Four into the mix, and frankly, I think that just needs another year or two to kind of percolate and recover from the debacle of the film. So, but that's for me. Anyway, I just wanted to dive in very, very quickly. This is only kind of like a fly by the seat of my pants kind of thing, to sort of like say thank you very much indeed to all of the kind words for everyone. I know that I'm not going to be able to take part in this or next week's show, so I just wanted to say to everybody watching, have yourself a fantastic Christmas, an amazing festive season, and a wonderful new year. We will get you up to speed with when we will be back, but for now, you're in the capable hands of Alyssa. Yeah, looking forward to watching the Grande Melee next week. I think that should be.
And it sounds as though a lot of our members are looking forward to participating. So we're having our fingers crossed. How a quick update on your condition? I told everybody that your surgery is tomorrow. Where can people send Patreon support?
Yeah, to be completely plated up. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I can guess it.
Oh God, yeah, it's completely casted. Oh, temporary casted at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, surgery tomorrow. It's a 5-part break with 7 breaks in there, but it's
2 splits, 4 breaks.
There you go. The Xray is quite a sight to see, and yeah. But at the end of the day, it's what happened. So I've got to move on. It's the way it works. So I just wanted to say thank you very much indeed to everyone for all the kind words and support, which when I posted about it, a lot of people have been quite frankly turning around saying the downside to all of this is you miss Star Wars.
Yes.
We are aware of this. I'm more than aware of how much this is. Certainly you're going to dive into that because, I mean, certainly from what I'm seeing on social media, it seems very split and divisive. I'm trying to stay away from all spoilers, but it's sounding like
anybody spoils it.
Yeah,
I will hunt them down.
But you don't want to mess with the Welsh woman.
You do not.
Yeah.
Do not spoil this movie for me.
So there we go. The other thing I wanted to very quickly talk about is why I'm kind of booted and suited and I am out of the house. Is there we go. Slightly more smarter than usual. Is because I am attending. I had to make the decision either to do the hangout or to attend and support my brother in his charity raising efforts. I am actually going to be live streaming the fight. Unfortunately, I think it might actually be after the hangout. So if you want to follow me on Facebook, I am going to be live streaming it on my page because there was a couple of issues streaming it to the charity event page. But if you would like to support my brother for his efforts for raising money for Cancer Research UK, do head to gofundme.com/Haley's Army Fight for Cancer Research. It's an impressive affair upstairs, and yeah, it's looking like a lot of fun. But anyway, that's really what I wanted to just come in and say. Have yourself a fantastic Christmas. Thank you very much indeed to all of your support and just watching the Hangouts over the last months. And thank you so much indeed for taking part. Alyssa, as always, you've been a star and an angel and a rock goddess. And you have been a true hero. Thank you very much indeed for just continuing to hang out. Mark, as always, it's a pleasure to see you looking a damn sight more handsome than anyone that we usually get on. Anyway, moving on.
Oh, I'm not sure. There's been some handsome people on here too. Thank you so much, Leonard, for your kind words, and appreciate greatly you jumping in and just letting us see you and see that you're doing so well, because you honestly, your spirits seem pretty high, and
it's fine until tomorrow, and then you'll catch the live stream of me being groggy after surgery. I'll try camera at me directly after surgery because that's when I'll be most vulnerable.
Oh, good, Caroline, please do. Andy says.
Yes,
Andy says
tomorrow, so I don't know. I will try.
Andy wishes you good, speedy recovery, as does Aaron and Leanne and Super Cat Chick and everybody else on the chat is with you in thought, and wishes you Merry Christmas too.
Okay, enjoy the rest of the hangout, and I'll watch it on the replay, of course.
So no spoilers?
Say what?
No spoilers?
No spoilers. Yeah. Right,
Bye-bye. Well, so much for having a spoiler section at the end of the show.
If the boss says no spoilers, the boss says no spoilers. That's what we've got to do. And the thing is, any other time we could have probably got away with it, but he's not very well, so we should adhere to his rules this time, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just want to go back quickly on obviously this Fox deal. I thought during the week, Mark Miller, who obviously wrote Kick-Ass and Wanted and many other comic books and everything else like that, tweeted a very interesting point, which I completely agree with. He put, if Marvel had X-Men and Fantastic Four 5 years ago, would they have made Guardians or Ant-Man? Disney will only make a specific number per year. I hope the audience doesn't lose more unique projects now.
Wow, that's a great idea. I mean, that's a great take on it, and a disturbing, especially with Black Panther coming out next month.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Is the worry is that now that they have the upper tier, all of the upper tier, will they make the lower tier? So would we see Black Panther? Would we see Ant-Man? This is my concern. I don't know. I don't think we would.
Aren't we into phase 3 of the plan? Of the wasn't it a 10 movie plan that that Marvel was doing, started a few years ago? So aren't they ready for another long overarching plan? Again?
I think you're right. I think we might see something new now. However, does that mean that those films that were roughly slated in for 2025 are now binned off? I don't know. That's my concern. I don't want to leave it on a sour note. I really don't, because it is an interesting deal. I really do. So the one quick positive I can think of this is, if we are having these overarching stories that will include Fantastic Four into, you know, Avengers or something like that, the one product I want to see is Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. That's what I want to see. The comic is incredible. I think it's so funny, and I think it would work perfectly. My concern is, will Disney do it? I think they should. I think it would be a good start to this new phase, actually, to say, right, this is a new phase. This is us and 20th Century Fox. We're going to kill all of the people that you had, and we're just going to leave Deadpool. It could be a good reboot.
I would like it to be perhaps more in line with the from way back when, the what if days of comics, you know, where you have these fantastic ideas that were separate and outside. They were like fan fiction. So what if Deadpool killed the MCU? That would kind of work for me, as long as we could still have some of the current characters. So I'm not in for it. But Leanne agrees with you. Yes, I would love that. Super Cat Chick, if I get Xenomorph Princess merch, I'm 100% in on the deal.
That's a good point, actually. She raises a very good point, in that those films and TV shows where the merchandise was a T-shirt or something like that, you know damn well Disney are going to merchandise the heck out of it. So start picking up your favorite 20th Century Fox stuff and start looking for those plushes and those talking action figures in stores in 2 years' time.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Andrew Dickinson is saying since they do a release every 3 months, they may bump it up to doing it every 2 months. But they may not have the studio, you know, the brand, the wherewithal to actually manage more. The
problem with that is you would then get overkill, and that they would be killing their own brand, let's face it. Because as much as we want DC and Warner's to work with their films, let's face it, you know, Marvel and Disney are on a completely different level, and they're only going to do themselves harm if it's every 2 months, because they don't have time to promote it. This is the problem. They're on to the next thing. I mean, 2 months with an A-list film would be great, but oof, that's rough. That's rough on Disney.
Andrew Dickinson says Infinity finishes phase 3. So we don't know what Marvel is planning on doing for the next series of movies.
Well, there we go then. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, a reboot of, and it kicks into phase 4. I'll take 5 points on that, Kevin Feige. That's no problem. 5 points, thank you.
Yeah, there is that. There is that. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Especially, I mean, personally, I'd love to see a lot more with Silver Surfer, Galacticus, you know, those sorts of films. Whether or not there's enough out there, you know, more Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, that out of world experience, because I like hard science fiction. So it would be fun to see that kind of thing happening, more so, because we don't get enough space movies as far as I'm concerned. Sarita P says Spider-Man is still Sony, Andy. So there is that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. We're not really going to see, well, we're not going to hear the full details of this deal until next year, and we're not going to see the first outcomes of how it affects film and TV, I think, until maybe 2019. That's going to be the first ripples, I think. So we can talk about it for a long time, but we're not going to see too much until, I think you're right, Alyssa, until they announce phase 4 of the Marvel stuff and TV stuff as well, because I imagine that they've already got most of the TV locked in for 2018, early 2019 season.
Leanne says, wasn't there a phase 2 with Captain Marvel, or maybe phase 4? I seem to remember a Captain Marvel being talked about. And Andrew also says, and now they own Firefly.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, interestingly, I saw somebody mention on Twitter this week about they were sort of harking around this. Disney could do the animated version of Firefly, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's a cool idea, but I don't know. That Disney don't really resurrect stuff from the dead, do they? They only will start a new thing, and if it works, it works. I can't see them bringing something back after all that time.
It's got to be within the Firefly universe, that the Jaws universe. They can't do a Firefly again, but they can certainly have Firefly like characters. In it.
Yeah.
So next thing is Jedi. You want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, so what are we, number 8? And I'd be, if people can jump in on the Q&A, because I'd really like to know this. So we've had 8 main films, and I think we've had 3 spin-offs. So we had Rogue One, we had the holiday special, and I think there was an Ewoks movie as well. If somebody else knows of any other, main spin-off films, please let me know. I was trying to think about it the other day, couldn't really find it. Yes, so this is an interesting film because I noticed that it is dividing a lot of people, and I'd be really interested to hear what people have got to say on the discussion as well. For me, it felt, we're not doing spoilers. We're not going to do spoilers at all. So if you haven't seen it, don't worry. For me, do you know what? Before I talk about it, I heard an interview with Rian Johnson, the director, and he said Disney gave him a blank slate. They turned around and said, right, you know how The Force Awakens ends, and it's up to you. You do it. So what he did, and this is brilliant, is he had a little notepad and he wrote down each individual person's character arc on each page, and then he went to a big board and he wrote it down and sort of interacted it with everybody else's, which I think is a fantastic idea. And it works in the film because you have all of your characters there. So, Leia and Luke, obviously the older characters, who are interacting with these new ones, and yet it still feels like you are getting a full character arc from Luke. You're still getting a full character arc from Leia. You're then getting character arcs from Finn and Poe and Rey as well, and yet they're all intermingling, yet at the same time you feel like they've got their own story. And I think that's the great thing about this film, and that's obviously the brilliance of what Rian Johnson has done here, is that he's decided, right, everything that we kind of enjoyed about The Force Awakens, of how, yes, okay, they sort of fitted very nicely. It was kind of like a jigsaw, oh, we knew what was coming. He's gone, no, we're going to separate it all. They're eventually going to come together, but we're going to separate it all. And you're going to focus on the individual characters. So even somebody like Poe Dameron, who doesn't have that much to do in this film, to be honest, he's still got a character arc and something interesting to do. I was blown away by this film. There are things in this film that shouldn't happen in a Star Wars film, I don't think. There are moments in it, and maybe you'll agree with this, Alyssa, because I know you're a science nut about this, but there are things in that which I felt wouldn't look out of place in Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. I thought they were incredible. I thought it looked fantastic as well. There were a couple of moments where it literally took my breath away, where I was like, wow, this is real filmmaking. This is not popcorn blockbuster filmmaking. This is a person who has made real films before. If you like Looper, I love Looper. I think it's great. Brick is a very interesting film. But Rian Johnson is a proper filmmaker. He's a great filmmaker. He's done smaller stuff. And I love the fact that he went, right, this is my film. This is what I'm going to do. And I came away going, I feel like I've watched a real film. I feel like I've watched a film that has been made by a proper director, not somebody who just made popcorn blockbusters. I just,
let me give you some feedback on what people are saying for what, just to go back to your earlier comment, Ewok, The Battle for Endor was a better film than The Last Jedi. There was 2 Ewok movies, just to get
okay.
A lot of people are not as enthralled with this movie. Andrew Dickinson says weak plot. Andrew English had a bit of humor. Somebody else was saying that the humor seemed forced. That it was a Disney humor. Graham Small says too much forced humor. And while I hear what you're saying about all of these separate threads, the fact that you didn't, unlike Volneview or Interstellar, you never really felt like you were, I never really felt like I was given the time to immerse myself in the Star Wars universe at the beginning. Yes, we had the role, but it just jumped right in the JJ style of action, right at the beginning. And I thought that was a mistake. I wanted to enjoy where I was for a few minutes and the character, and have a little bit, with Luke and Leia, and just appreciate that for a minute before we started going into the frenetic jumping between characters. There were so many, and that, I think, was my problem with the movie, was that I've been watching a lot of 3-hour movies, Interstellar, Blade Runner, a lot of those long character visual movies, and it was too much for me. I would have appreciated a little bit more staying with one character for a longer period of time.
You were mentioning there some of the people jumping in on the Hangout talking about the humor. What was your opinion on the humor? Did it work for you?
A little bit, not really. Like Graham said, it seemed a little bit forced.
Right.
It was a little bit forced. And it was kind of like, oh, we want to make this funny. We want to appeal to kids, so we're going to do this. I don't know how else to do it, but I don't know. So that, yeah, I was not as thrilled with the humor. Leanne says she loved it. Find Your Loves. I'm not sure what that is. We could take, Graham Small says, we could take Finn's arc out and there would be no difference to the story. And I have to agree that there were some arcs that I was like, why is this here? Why don't we, this is 2 movies. Why don't we, separate this into part 1 and part 2 and maybe have another movie in a couple of months?
And then we've got the Disney overkill.
Yeah, well, I know.
Yeah. Certainly for the humor, from my side of it, I thought it was very good. The film, if you take the humor out of the film, it's a very dark film. It's very similar to Empire Strikes Back in that regard, because Empire is a very dark film. And I think this is quite a dark one as well. It's got a lot of dark themes in. So that humor, I think, needed to be there. For me, I thought it worked perfectly. It could have been overcooked. I think in anybody else, in another director's hands, I probably would have been agreeing with most other people in that it felt forced. I thought it was probably on the nose. I mean, there is a joke in there that really shouldn't be in a Star Wars film. It is a slapstick humor joke. I'm not going to say what the joke is, but it shouldn't be in there. And yet I've seen the film twice now and I laughed at it both times because I don't know, something about it just worked and it just hit me. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is working for me. But the humor worked for me.
Was it the Chewie scene? Chewbacca?
No. I mean, that's a great scene as well. But this is the thing. There's a lot of humor in it. The Porgs obviously bring a lot of humor to it as well. Yeah. I think they're very good in it. But, you're always going to have that sort of trusty sidekick type comedy thing anyway, which the Porgs are really. But no, it was a 5-second thing, if that. And and it just kind of encapsulated the humor in it for me, which was, I don't know, maybe it's a British bit of humor, maybe a bit of surrealist humor in it that I enjoyed more. But the humor worked for me. I was really impressed with it. Yeah, I mean, I loved it, but I get that this is splitting people. And I was talking to somebody about this, about how it's splitting, and this person absolutely hated the movie, absolutely hated it. They use a lot of other words which we won't use here. And I was kind of talking to them and trying to explain that, you know, look, this is why I enjoyed it and whatever else. And I don't know, I kind of came across the point that maybe the people who didn't like this were the original hardcore nerds back in the late 70s, early 80s, when Star Wars first came out, and maybe saw it on the big screen and was so ingrained in Star Wars at that point. Whereas somebody like myself, you know, I didn't see Star Wars until it was on the TV here at Christmas in the UK, and even then I was very young. I really only got into Star Wars in the, I don't know, early 90s. So I wasn't, you know, I had the videotape. So I wonder if it's that, in that this is what's splitting everybody, you know, that the original fans want it to feel like it is still in that universe, and yet the new fans are like, okay, we enjoy what you do, but now you've taken it to places that, you know, Christopher Nolan's taken it, Denis Villeneuve's taken it, and maybe that's what's splitting people. I don't know. Maybe I'd be interested to hear what other people think as to why people are splitting it.
Having watched it originally in the theater, so I am probably one of those original people that you're talking about. I think maybe that's what I dislike about this movie is, as somebody said, the bar scene, the casino scene in this movie seems so reminiscent of the bar scene in the first movie, but with a Disney makeover on it. Sure. You know, which you know, with that glitz to it, that, you know, it brought it out of a character-driven story and brought it into an effects-driven story.
That's a valid point. That's a valid point. Yeah.
Cedric Carmichael loved the film, and Scott C. The humor in The Last Jedi fits what the director likes to do. So it says it makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Andrew English was oh boy, the cooking pun. Yeah, I cannot take credit for this idea. A good friend of mine said, posted on the forum, that perhaps we need a Chewbacca and with a piece of meat as our SDCC Funko Pop exclusive next year. So try not to go spoilery there.
Yeah. Difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leanne D, it was the Hardware Wars iron. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Leanne. You know?
No, unless she was referring to the moment I was talking about. I'm not sure. One thing I will jump in with is that you know, I was talking about each individual character arc. I came away feeling like this film belonged to Adam Driver. I thought he was fantastic in this. I don't particularly think he's a very good actor, but I thought he was great in this. You know, in The Force Awakens, he was a petulant child who had a fiery temper, but not too much. In this, I think we saw a character that moved from a petulant child to all-out evil. And I was really impressed with what he did in this. Really impressed. There is a scene with Kylo Ren and Rey that, when, for anybody who's seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. In the Red Room, maybe that's a Twin Peaks reference now. Just thinking about it, in the Red Room, I don't know. In the Red Room, that when I saw it, people burst out into applause, because the work that they'd gone in to that 10-minute sequence was just incredible. It just blew me away. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. It felt like watching somebody who had watched Gareth Evans' The Raid and understood that action needs to be a certain way, and I was really impressed with what they did. And there is an incredible slow-mo movement that Ray does that even on the second time I was like, wow, that's a cool movement. That is a cool movement. But yeah, I thoroughly impressed with that driver.
I will say that sequence in through there addressed the emotional impact. I think that one, to me, aside from the obvious Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia interactions earlier on in the movie, which were heartbreaking, that particular Red Room sequence was, for me, the core of the movie. And I think that a lot of the other things could have been stripped away from that, and it would have emphasized that interaction, because what those two do, Kylo Ren and Rey, are going to drive Star Wars forward. It's not going to be, you know, all of the other stuff, the secondary characters, the Finns, the Poes, all of that. I mean, yes, it's going to be interesting, but they're not the core conflict going forward. And more could have been made of that, I think.
I wonder if they will do that in episode 9. I think that's what they're leading up to. But
let's hope. Let's hope.
A New Hope. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Let's see. Grand Small said, who also said, what's the bother with the casino portion? And he doesn't seem to like the movie. I think I kind of made his words a little bit nicer than they actually are. there may be some 4-letter words in there too. Correct me if I'm wrong. Graham said he really liked The Force Awakens, loved Rogue One, and hated The Last Jedi. Leanne said, I'm one of the originals that saw it when it came out. Michael P. said, change is hard for people.
That's a good point.
Oh, please, Michael. Love you dearly, but come on. Really? To me? You're going to say that to me? Caroline Dugan. I saw them when they all came out as well and loved The Last Jedi. Andrew said, I was 10 when it came out. Leanne says, in 79, I traded my bike for a Millennium Falcon. Oh, your mother must have loved you. Just she also agree about Kylo, hated him in The Force Awakens, but really liked him in this movie. Super Cat Chick, I have a different perspective on these films. I embarrassingly did not watch them until 2015, the night before Force Awakens.
Wow.
Yeah, how did you manage that?
Wow. That's some hardcore work.
Yes, to avoid those movies. Craig agrees with you, Mark. I would rather rewatch Justice League.
I like Justice League. That's not an insult to me, I'm afraid. It's really not.
I have not watched it yet. So I've been behind in my movie watching and in my television watching. So that kind of wraps up where we are at this point. It's
kind of interesting though that we're split as well. Me and you are split as well, Alyssa. And once again, this is what I'm saying. Does it come down to the divide of? And I'm sorry to say this, Alyssa, because I know
no, you aren't.
Yeah, I just wonder if it comes down to age divide.
I wonder
if that's what it is.
No,
I don't know.
No, I don't think so. And I know you like the longer, more character-driven visual movies too.
Yeah.
I think my objection comes mostly to that. If I had been expecting a lighter, more fluff, I hesitate to say fluffier movie, but if I had been expecting that with the Finn and the Poe and all of that sort of stuff, then I think I would have been okay with it. But I think I was expecting more more Kylo Ren and Rey, you know, than I was really getting. I just, in a lot of the short sequences, I was not really happy with. I will say one thing that I was extremely happy with, and I know that it's been getting a lot of airplay, is the film with the actors, and the variety of actors looked normal. It looked like a human population. There was enough women in the roles, because face it, when you're down to a lot, when you're I'm trying to avoid spoilers here, but when you've been fighting as long as the rebel forces have been, you're going to have an attrition rate, and some people, there's going to be more women fighters, and having older women as main characters in this, I loved. It was such a pleasure to see a general, dare I say, you know, spoiler here, a general who is not a 20-year-old female, but was actually had the age and the intellectual heft to carry the role of general.
Yeah.
So that I just had to put a shout out for.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. Just as a postscript, because I know you want to wrap this up, Alyssa. Just as a postscript, from a British point of view, it was within 3 minutes of this film starting that there was a huge laugh went up, a huge chuckle within the screening that I was at. You know, this was a critic screening. We know we're all quite stuffy and whatever else. There was a huge joke. There was a huge roar went up when Adrian Edmondson appeared on screen. Now, he plays Captain PV, who is General Hux's right-hand man. So you may remember him. Obviously, he's on the bridge and whatever else. This guy was one of the most influential alternative comedians in the 80s and 90s ever. Like, if you're in the US and you don't know who he is, look him up. Please do watch The Young Ones, and please do watch Bottom. This guy was... He took him and his friend Rick Mail took slapstick humor to the next level, like punching themselves in the face, hitting themselves with frying pans. It was incredible. So when he turns up as a serious bad guy, there was a little bit of a laughter going on. However, the funny thing was, because I couldn't take my eyes off him, because I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, this is the guy. There's a couple of moments where people are focusing on Hux, and instead he's rolling his eyes, and I'm like, that's the Adrian Edmondson I know. That's the guy. But yeah, he is a comedic actor, a very, very well-known comedic actor, one of the best.
Interesting. I do want to watch. Don't take my criticisms as that I didn't enjoy the movie, and I am planning on watching it again. I do want to see it again in the theaters. I will watch him, that particular role, more, because it does seem rather one-sided. You know, very, you know, if I'm thinking about the same character that you are, that it seems pretty not a lot of depth to it, but
there wasn't. It was just fun to see somebody like that, who you have loved for doing ridiculous adult humor, appear in a Star Wars film. You know, it just melted my mind a little bit.
Let's see. Graham Small, I'm going to just go over some of the comments. It seemed my main problem was that it was too Disney-fied. Andrew English, Graham, sadly, with all the buyout, that's all we may have. Michael P. Gravitas. Aaron agrees. Yes, those are the words I'm thinking about with regards to the older female characters. Absolutely. Absolutely. Adrian Edmondson.
Yeah, Adrian Edmondson. That's the guy.
That's the guy.
Yeah. That's the guy.
And yep. Eddie Hitler. Was that his?
Eddie Hitler. Eddie Hitler and Richard Richards. Yeah. You honestly, for anybody who doesn't know what we're going on about, this is going to be so bonkers, and yet, when you see what Adrian Edmondson did in the 80s and 90s, you'll think, how is he even in a Star Wars film? It is incredibly bonkers. Yet, for somebody who grew up with Eddie Hitler, it's amazing. I loved it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna copy all these comments over, and maybe I'll actually post them someplace. Maybe I'll start a thread on the forum.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
The live chat comments. If anybody would not like me to do that, send me a PM, and I can't go back in history, but I can go forward, and we can just have something that'll correlate to these, so that we'll get these ideas down. Let's see. I can fully imagine Eddie Hitler joining the First Order.
Yeah.
And a good singer, Leanne D.
Yes,
Legend,
yes.
The Young Ones.
Yes. Love all these people. Love all these people who are saying about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously, I don't know what we're talking about, but it gives us Americans something to look forward to watching and looking forward to diving deeper. We're expecting the next Star Wars film out next Christmas.
No, we've got Solo, a Star Wars story, meant to be in the summer. They haven't removed the release date at all. So we've got one in the summer, which is the spin-off, and then episode 9 in 2019. So nothing at Christmas, purely based on, and obviously this goes back to what we were talking about with Disney having too many franchises. We've got Mary Poppins Returns at Christmas. So that's a Disney film, so they can't put a Star Wars film up against that.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Okay. There you go.
Yep.
Have you been watching, did you, in amongst all of your Christmas viewing, have you gotten a chance to watch any of the small screen stuff that's been happening?
I have to say, much like you, Alyssa, I am quite behind on what I've been watching, just because all of a sudden everything seems to have come up. So I've there's things that I haven't watched. I've only just started watching Ash versus the Evil Dead season 2. I'm so far behind, but no, I don't think I'm watching anything in real time, to be honest with you. The only thing that I was watching in real time, which nicely will lead us into our last subject, TV of the week. The only thing I was watching in real time was The Walking Dead, but I didn't watch this season because I've had enough. Yeah. I've had enough. It is dead.
Yeah, a lot of people have been kind of going that way too. I haven't watched the last 2 episodes of it. Of The Walking Dead. I will catch up to it. They're on my DVR. That kind of goes into the theme that we're talking about this week is, catching up with stuff and binging and Christmas and holiday specials and all of the like. I will say the one new show that I am thoroughly enjoying and even got my 18-year-old to watch is Happy on the Sci-Fi Channel. If you do get a chance to catch that, they're doing it with limited commercial interruptions here. Happy scenes. It's definitely an adult thing. I talked about it last week, and I'm going to probably continue talking about it too. And that really has been the other thing. Orville, of course, was great. A lot of people were talking about the Mr. Robot series, the season finale that ended. That's another great one to go over. Mostly this week, what we're talking about is the future. There's a movie on Netflix coming out on Friday, which is called Bright. It is, and I'm scrolling down for it.
Will Smith.
Yes, Will Smith. Interspecies tensions. Humans, orcs, and elves and fairies have been coexisting since the beginning of time. And with a dystopian, set in a dystopian LA environment, which sounds pretty interesting. I may have just lost Mark. Oh, no, you're sorry. Oh,
aliens.
After talking about the Jedi, yes, we're talking about Will Smith.
Yeah, no, I know the film you're talking about because it was at Comic-Con this year, wasn't it? They were there to promote it. I mean, I will watch it. and it's directed by David Ayer, who I still maintain is a very good director, but his output recently has been utter tosh. I mean, dear oh dear, I really don't hold much hope for this at all. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be a while until I get to that. I'm still on Hulu and still haven't even finished watching my Hulu shows, and I still have CBS All Access, so I'm way behind in everything. Netflix is also doing an 8-episode documentary series about the history of important toy lines, which might be of interest to some people. That's also airing on Friday.
Oh, I know somebody in that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, I know somebody in that. Cool. Yeah. No, everybody should check it out. Yes. Yes, he told me about it ages ago. He was out in LA. When did he go to LA? June or something like that to film it. So he's the He-Man expert.
And it makes sense that He-Man will be in there. I mean, I'm looking forward to a Lego bit, and just, those classic lines. So it should be fun as light entertainment, and particularly appropriate for this time of the year when so much is focused on toys. Yeah. So absolutely. Let's see. I think that was kind of about it with regards to new stuff. We do have a link to the Nerd Much site, which has put together an excellent listing of all of the holiday movies that are out there. Some of the holiday movies that I'm going to try and rewatch: Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Frozen, which I've never seen, National Lampoon's Vacation, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So those types of from the website, and I'm going to just go to it, Nerd Much site. I'm calling it up now. nerdmuch.com/TV. They've I'm bringing something out. They've got.
Sorry, I just had to get something.
Sure. They've got a great listing of different when all of these movies are airing. Freeform is doing an amazing list today. Can
I just jump in with one Christmas film, which probably is not on the list because it only appeared on Netflix on Friday. Pottersville. Don't know if anybody knows this film. It's nothing to do with Harry Potter at all. And I saw it on Friday, and it looked like it was going to be one of those films that was, so bad it's good. It's not at all. It's actually a very sweet film. Here's the story. It's set in the quaint town of Pottersville, where local businessman named Maynard is mistaken for the legendary Bigfoot after a drunken walk through the town in a makeshift gorilla costume. That is a real story. It stars. Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, I know it's bonkers. It stars. Here's the list of people in it: Michael Shannon, Christina Hendricks, Judy Greer, Ian McShane, Ron Perlman, and Thomas Lennon. How do you get all of these people in this quaint little Christmas film? It's honestly, it is well worth a watch. It was a lot of fun. Pottersville. Yeah, it is delightfully funny.
I love quirky little things like that.
Oh, you're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe it.
Good. Let's see. Graham Small talks about Bright. Looks awesome. Will Smith. So Graham Small is looking forward to Bright.
Good.
Andrew Dickinson. It's a Shadowrun and Dungeons and Dragons game. So, Super Cat Chick. If you like time travel and murder. Mystery Murders, Netflix original adaptation of the manga anime Erased is really good. I think I mentioned that last week or a week or two ago. Yeah, that seemed very haunting just from the clip that I saw. That I really appreciated that artwork. I will go into that last comment in 1 minute. But in terms of haunting artwork, I'm going to just quickly plug this book. Cursed Pirate Girl. If you like the just amazing, if you're looking for a new artwork, this guy Jeremy Bastian is amazing. He's on ARCHAIA Entertainment. It's a division of Boom Studios, and it's on Amazon to a $20 graphic novel. It's thick. It's just amazing. Just to die for artwork. If you're looking for something like that as a last minute Christmas gift for somebody who likes detailed line drawing. Did you have anything quick that you wanted to throw out there as a last minute gift for people?
My book.
There we go.
There we go. No, that's it.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, that was the perfect segue. I see. I said
I thought so.
Right into your book there. Again, next week we're going to be doing. And where can people find your book, Mark?
It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble, it's on iBook. I'm trying to think where else. Basically, if you have a ebook reader, whatever it is, you'll be available to buy it from whatever your store is. And if you want a physical copy, they're on eBay at the moment.
Okay. Wonderful. Or I'm sure you can talk to hit up Mark on Twitter, and he would be happy to tweet out the link of where you could purchase it, whatever platform you're on.
Yeah.
A reminder that next week I am looking for people to be on the show, and I would love to have as many people as possible. And it will be crazy. We'll be talking media. We'll be talking Christmas presents that we want, Christmas presents we can't really get into what we're getting or what we're giving, but maybe we can. I don't know. Who knows? Depends if your friends and family are actually watching the show. My family does not watch this show, so I'm fairly. Oh yeah, they have no interest in what I do. So let's see, what else was there? So Mark, of course, you're welcome to come on if you want to be crazy with all of us other inmates. But in between then, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Twitter at Mark_Searby, my website, marksearby.com. If you're in the UK, you can hear me on Phoenix FM Friday afternoons doing the film reviews, or Saturday mornings on BBC Radio Suffolk doing film reviews as well. And I think that's it until next year, where you'll be able to see me on some DVDs.
What are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing special features on DVD. So next year, there are 3 that have been announced, and I'm doing another 3. So you'll be able to see me on the new Blu-ray release of Let's Make Love, the Marilyn Monroe film, The Halls of Montezuma, which is a war film, and The Three Faces of Eve. So these are all, scrubbed up films and everything else like that. The Three Faces of Eve is January, Halls of Montezuma is March, and I think Let's Make Love is maybe April. But yes, you will be able to see me on there talking about the films.
Interesting. Are there going to be other critics?
There will be on. It will just be me on those releases, and then on other releases they will have other people. They've got another film. The company that are releasing them, Second Sight, have a guy who's actually in the US do most of the stuff. So when I'm not on it, he's going to be doing it basically. So if you would like to buy those, I'd be really appreciative. And even if you don't want to look at my face, you could just look away and just listen to what I'm saying. It's interesting stuff, I think.
Yep. I look forward to it. It's interesting that you're branching out into that. people can find Leonard, and I do want to just put a shout out just to bring this back in to Leonard. You can find him on his website of An Englishman in San Diego. It's AN Englishman in San Diego. Of course, on Twitter and on all of his other network channels, which if I start to go over them, I will mess them up. So I'm not going to do that because I can barely get my own out. I do want to put a word out for Patreon support. I know that if any support that you could give would be greatly appreciated. And Leonard handles all of that, so I'm not quite sure, but I believe that you can find the Patreon page a link to the front page of his website, An Englishman in San Diego. I know that he would appreciate that and is going through some difficult times right now, but is on the road. At least he could see, you're starting to see the end in sight. People can always find me at my Twitter handle is at Friends of CCI, and you can find me on my blog and forum, which I do have Next Week in Television's listing up, which will give you a link to that fabulous listing of shows put up by the Nerd Much site for the Christmas shows. And we'll see you next week. Please reach out if you want to be on the show next Christmas Eve. I'd love to have you. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a happy holidays.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.